من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عما يتساءلون عن النبأ العظيم الذي هم فيه مختلفون. كلا سيعلمون ثم كلا سيعلمون. ألم نجعل الأرض مهادا والجبال أوتادا وخلقناكم أزواجا وجعلنا نومكم سباتا وجعلنا الليل لباسا وجعلنا النهار معاشا وبنينا فوقكم سبعا شدادا جعلنا سراجا وهاجا وأنزلنا من المعصرات ماء ثجاجا لنخرج به حبا ونباتا وجنات ألفافا. إن يوم الفصل كان ميقاتا يوم ينفخ في الصور فتأتون أفواجا وفتحت السماء فكانت أبوابا وسيرت الجبال فكانت سرابا. إن جهنم كانت مرصادا للطاغين مآبا لابثين فيها أحقابا لا يذوقون فيها بردا ولا شرابا إلا حميما وغساقا جزاء وفاقا. إنهم كانوا لا يرجون حسابا وكذبوا بآياتنا كذابا وكل شيء أحصيناه كتابا فذوقوا فلن نزيدكم إلا عذابا. إن للمتقين مفازا حدائق وأعنابا وكواعب أترابا وكأسا دهاقا لا يسمعون فيها لغوا ولا كذابا جزاء من ربك عطاء حسابا. رب السماوات والأرض وما بينهما الرحمن لا يملكون منه خطابا. يوم يقوم الروح والملائكة صفا لا يتكلمون إلا من أذن له الرحمن وقال صوابا. ذلك اليوم الحق فمن شاء اتخذ إلى ربه مآبا. إنا أنذرناكم عذابا قريبا يوم ينظر المرء ما قدمت يداه ويقول الكافر يا ليتني كنت ترابا. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
زيارة آل ياسين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. سلام على آل ياسين. السلام عليك يا داعي الله ورباني آياته. السلام عليك يا باب الله وديان دينه. السلام عليك يا خليفة الله وناصر حقه. السلام عليك يا حجة الله ودليل إرادته. السلام عليك يا تاليا كتاب الله وترجمانه. السلام عليك في آناء ليلك وأطراف نهارك. السلام عليك يا بقية الله في أرضه. السلام عليك يا ميثاق الله الذي أخذه ووكده. السلام عليك يا وعد الله الذي ضمنه. السلام عليك أيها العلم المنسوب والعلم المسبوب والغوث والرحمة واسعة وعدا غير مكذوب. السلام عليك حين تقوم. السلام عليك حين تقعد. السلام عليك حين تقرأ وتبين. السلام عليك حين تصلي وتقنوت. السلام عليك حين تركع وتسجد. السلام عليك حين تهلل وتكبر. السلام عليك حين تحمد وتستغفر. السلام عليك حين تصبح وتمسي. السلام عليك في الليل إذا يغشى والنهار إذا تجلى. السلام عليك أيها الإمام المأمون. السلام عليك أيها المقدم المأمول. السلام عليك بجوامع السلام. أشهدك يا مولاي أني أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأن محمدا عبده ورسوله لا حبيب إلا هو وأهله. وأشهدك يا مولاي أن عليا أمير المؤمنين حجته والحسن حجته والحسين حجته وعلي بن الحسين حجته ومحمد بن علي حجته وجعفر بن محمد حجته وموسى بن جعفر حجته وعلي بن موسى حجته ومحمد بن علي حجته وعلي بن محمد حجته والحسن بن علي حجته. وأشهد أنك حجة الله أنتم الأول والآخر وأن رجعتكم حق لا ريب فيها يوم لا ينفع نفسا إيمانها لم تكن آمنت من قبل أو كسبت في إيمانها خيرا وأن الموت حاك وأن ناكرا ونكير حاك وأشهد أن النشر حاك والبعث حاك وأن الصراط حاك والمرصاد حق والميزان حق والحشر حق والحساب حق والجنة والنار حق والوعد والوعيد بهما حق. يا مولاي شقي من خالفكم وسعد من أطاعكم، فاشهد على ما أشهدتك علي، وأنا ولي لك بريء من عدوك، وأنا ولي لك بريء من عدوك، فالحق ما رضيتموه والباطل ما أسخطتموه، والمعروف ما أمرتم به والمنكر ما نهيتم عنه، فنفسي مؤمنة بالله وحده لا شريك له وبرسوله وبأمير المؤمنين وبكم يا مولاي أولكم وآخركم، ونصرتي معدة لكم ومودتي خالصة لكم. آمين آمين. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. Sayyeda Fatima, can we all recite aloud salawat for the quick reappearance of Imam Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman? Salawat ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Just a few quick announcements about upcoming programs before we continue on with the program. Inshallah, next Friday night we are holding a ladies only celebration for the birth of Sayyeda Masuma, so keep your eyes out. The advertisement you should see it on social media inshallah soon. The week after we do have the birth of Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rida. We are holding two programs, one for everyone, which is on Friday night, and on Saturday night, inshallah, we're having a boys doubles FIFA tournament. The age is 15 plus. For more details, you can see our socials, inshallah. Without wasting any more time, if I can ask that we stand and recite 3 loud salawat as we invite His Eminence Sheikh Mohammed Mehdi to get us underway with the lecture. Salawat ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.
وهو حي لا يموت بيده الخير وهو على كل شيء. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بفضل الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله والحمد حقه كما يستحقه حمدا كثيرا. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك. اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله، اللهم لعنهم جميعا. ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله أجمعين محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين، واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. One of the narrations that you hear whenever we mention the birth of Hadrat Fatima bint Musa ibn Ja'far alayhim salam is the hadith where the Imam mentions to the companions that there's some people, that he meets from the city of Rai, and he mentions that you are from Qom. And then he says to them about Qom, he says to them, Inna lana haraman wa huwa baldatu Qom. You hear this hadith all the time, that we have a sanctuary, we have a haram. Who's we? Ahlul Bayt alayhum as-salam. And this haram is in Qom. That our sanctuary is in Qom al-Muqaddasi. So, when people think, and it's not any coincidence why the Hawza is in Qom, because in another narrations he mentions it as Al-Kufa as-Sughra, the small Kufa, or the smaller Kufa. And as we know, now when you say Kufa, the houses in Najaf, Najaf is not the actual city. Najaf is the part of Kufa. It's the back of Kufa. Do you know what I mean? So when you mention an area, and because one place becomes famous, people start to label the area by what? By that place. For example, when you think about the ACT, people say Canberra. Even though ACT is far larger, but Canberra is what the ACT is about. They say Canberra, that's what it's known for. Even though it's far greater. Al-Kufa is huge without any comparison whatsoever with that. And part of the Kufa, in the areas in Kufa, is Najaf. But we started calling it Najaf. Why? Because Amir al-Mu'mineen is buried in that part. So that's it. It received that significance. So the lesser Kufa, the smaller Kufa was called Qom. So obviously if the Hawza was in Kufa, then also the Hawza, is that tap water? Oh, it's good, warm. Thank you. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali. So he says Inna lana haraman wa huwa baldatu Qom. Now we're going to look at 5 points in this hadith that explain a lot about what the Imam is saying. Sometimes we have to investigate what these hadiths say, in order for us to understand what is being said. He says, وَتُدْفَنُ فِيهَا مْرَأَةٌ. In Qom, a woman will be buried. He says, min awladi. So the first point we're going to look at is who she is. Who is Fatima alayhi salam? And because the Imam is giving, obviously, glad tidings, a bushra, about who? About the birth. Because this hadith, just to let you know, this hadith, the narrators said, was mentioned before Imam al-Qadhim was born. So he was talking about his granddaughter, Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, before her father was even born. And he's telling you, just like Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam had told people, Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, had told people about what? About Imam Hussein alayhi salam before he was born. And even before that, the Anbiya used to talk about Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi before the advent of even prophets after them. Isn't that right? So you would have, for example, if we look in the Bible and we look in the book of Deuteronomy, the one everyone knows, 18:18, everyone knows this one, where Moses, they say, the Jews that say this speaks about Moses, that says, it's about Jesus, the Christians say this verse, but the verse is about Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, where it says a prophet like unto you, unto Moses, a prophet like you, that will come. It's giving Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam bushra, or glad tidings, as we would say. So he says, فيها امرأة من أولادي تسمى فاطمة. So firstly, he speaks about the glad tidings of her birth. That's the first thing we're going to look at. The second point, her name, Fatima, and the significance of such name. And then he speaks, فَمَنْ زَارَهَا, about visiting her, about her shrine. And then he says the benefit of it, وَجَبَتْ لَهُ الْجَنَّةِ. So whoever visits her, it becomes incumbent on them to enter what? Paradise. Allahu Akbar. So let's take a look at this part by part. Firstly, the glad tidings about her birth. Firstly, we know she is the daughter. Fatima is the daughter of the seventh Holy Imam, Al-Imam Musa ibn Ja'far Al-Qadhim, salawatullahi wa salamu alayh. And she is the sister of Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida. But she's not a half sister. She's a full sister. She's the only full sister of the Imam. So Imam al-Rida alayhi salam and Fatima were both from Imam al-Qadhim and from the same mother. Now, of the names that of the same mother, one they say her name was Najma. Another one that says her name was Tuktam al-Maghribiyya, which Maghribiyya means she came from West Africa. So they call it al-Maghribiyya. Now, the word Tuktam, if we go through what that name means, just to let you know, because Imam al-Qadhim, we know who her father is. He's the seventh Holy Imam. We understand, we have nights to remember him. Tuktam, on the other hand, is not much we know about her. But we know that when Abdul Muttalib, because there was the fountain of Zamzam that was buried. And Abdul Muttalib saw in his dream, what he saw is, they said, he's heard a voice tell him in the dream, Ihfar Tuktam, which means dig up Tuktam. So Tuktam means what was hidden. So this hidden treasure, which was the fountain of Zamzam. So Tuktam was a name for the fountain of Zamzam. And when we hear about Zamzam, what are the benefits of drinking the ma of Zamzam? People will tell you what? Zamzam is good for what? For if you're sick? Yes. What else is it good for? Well, I'll tell you what Zamzam is good for. And because you want to understand these names that these people have, indicate who they were. The barakah that they have, the blessings that they have. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, when he asked what is the benefit or how do you benefit from Zamzam, he said, Ma'u Zamzama lima shuriba lah. So Zamzam, the water of Zamzam, is for whatever you drink it for. Regardless of what I seek from the water. I want taqwa. I say, oh Allah, I'm drinking this water so you can give me piety. I want knowledge. Oh Allah, I'm drinking this water for knowledge. I want wealth. I want strength. I want health. I want to be cured from my illnesses. Whatever it is, that's why I drink. So Zamzam is a source of goodness and well-being and blessings. Likewise, this hidden treasure that Imam Al-Qadhim married Tuktam was a source of blessing. Likewise. So this is not just anything. From her womb came Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, and Sayyeda Fatima al-Ma'suma alayhi salam. Just to give you an idea of who she was. As we know that she had the title of Ma'suma. Some of the brothers will ask, and the sisters will ask about Asma a lot of the times. We don't believe, our ulama don't believe that she was given the title of Ma'suma, as in the Asma of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Some of our fuqaha say the ma'asuma means asamat nafsaha fi qom, that she fortified herself and she remained in the city of Qom. Because she was born on the 1st of Dhul Qa'dah, 173 after Hijrah, and she was martyred, or she passed into Allah's mercy on I think it's 10 Rabi' al-Thani, 201 after Hijrah. She lived for 28 years. So during that time she was young, she was never married. But then people ask, what's her station? Her station is like the other great women, like al-Banin, like Sayyida Zainab, like Sayyida Nafisa. All these people held lofty positions and were righteous women and held the loftiest positions of all. But people will say, hold on, are they sinless? We believe that they wouldn't have committed sin. We believe this. Because where there's ulama that we believe there are even righteous people that you may see that haven't committed sin. Since the age of bulugh, they haven't committed sin. Allah, they don't go and announce this. They don't come up to you and say, listen, you know what? I've never committed a sin before. They don't come and tell you. They don't need to come and tell you. It's not their job for them to come and tell you. It's something between them and God. But they are rare. They're not common people. And likewise, in the case of these women were elevated to the point, as we understand, just to know, we began just with her birth, and you can see all the barakah that's coming, the blessing that comes from her birth. Her name, often we get asked, you come up and they say, "Intu Shia mchallibin bi'ism Ali or Fatima." They say, you guys you're so stubborn when it comes to this. You always name Ali, you always name Fatima. Why do you name these names for? A lot of people, they don't like these names, and they'll abstain from them. Sometimes even from our community, you'll find someone who says, I don't want to name this name. I want to name something different. And they do just like they roll a dice, or they tell you, I opened the Qur'an, and this word popped up, and they just come up with some strange name. I've heard it too often. I'm not putting anyone down. I'm not pointing at you specifically. If you think, we have a saying in Lebanese, sometimes people, when you say something, they think you're talking about them specifically. I'm not talking about anyone specifically. But when people, you just want to avoid, we have the best names to name, the most beautiful names to name. We're not saying other names are wrong. Don't get me wrong. Other names are not wrong. We're just saying these are the best names to name. The reason why we name these names, a strong focus, especially on Ali and Fatima. And the opposition tends to avoid these names. They tend to name their enemies' names a lot. You'll hear them name all the enemies' names, and they're proud. If you go to some countries, like one of the Gulf states, the whole royal family, there isn't one Ali and there isn't one Fatima. Remember one royal family, one of the princesses, her name was Mosa. Banana. Honestly, I'm not joking. Her name was Banana. Okay? But they wouldn't name Fatima. Now, they ran out of names, they started naming fruit names. So they wouldn't name her. If you actually look it up, Mosa, she's an actual princess, that's her name. So it's not something where a fairy tale, because they don't want to name Ali and Fatima. So, in fact, during the time of Harun al-Abbasi and al-Mutawakkil al-Abbasi, they would consider a punishable by death for you to call your son Ali. It was a really big thing. They wanted to eliminate this name, absolutely eliminate it. They don't want it to exist because of what it brings up. Because suddenly everyone says, all right, why were you named Ali? And it's going to open that doorway for them to understand what? Open them into the door of what? Of Hidayah. And they will be able to see again. Okay? Now, the Imams were the ones that revived these names, don't forget. How many Imams are called Ali? How many Imams? After Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Zain al-Abidin, Ali ibn al-Hussein, okay? Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rada, and Imam Ali ibn Muhammad al-Hadi. So there's 3 Alis after Imam Ali. And the name of Fatima was revived. And we have Imam Hussein had a daughter called Fatima, Fatima al-Alila, which we hear. I'm talking, they probably all had Fatima, but the ones we hear in narrations. Imam Zain al-Abidin we have, Imam al-Baqir we have, Imam al-Sadiq we have. Imam al-Qadim had 4 Fatimas. He had 4 daughters called Fatima. So the name of Fatima was oft named amongst the Imams. It was something that was named very often. So anything that was linked to this was hated. And in fact, have a look at the world today. You know, you sit there and you watch what's happening in the world today. You know, when Jordan, remember, like, if you want to see a goalkeeping performance, some people might tell you to watch Courtois in 2 years ago's Champions League. Nah, watch King Abdullah II when he was trying to block goals from Iran that were being shot at Israel. So these people, anything that has the tag of Shia on it, they want to bring it down. Even up to now, they say this is all a game. This is all a theater production. Why? Because they were Shia that did it. If Iran was not a Shia nation, this would completely be accepted. They would sit there and go, look, this is done. But when they sit there and say, Rafida do this, Rafida do that, it's hatred directly to Ali ibn Abi Talib, to Fatima al-Zahra. It's all it is, nothing else. And if anything is done by anybody else that's not a follower of Ali and Fatima, it's all accepted and celebrated. But anything that comes or linked to Ali and Fatima, it doesn't matter who it is, they will attack it with full force as much as that they can. Now let's go towards visiting her. Her name being Fatima, visiting her shrine. We mentioned the first narration on Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. There's also a narration on Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha. He says, عن سعد بن سعد عن أبي الحسن الرضا عليه السلام قال سألته عن زيارة فاطمة بنت موسى عليه السلام. He said, I asked him about visiting her grave. Now, we already have Imam al-Sadiq has said, whoever visits her, he says, well, it becomes incumbent upon them to enter paradise. So he says, Man zaraha, Imam Rida alayhi salam says, Man zaraha falahu al-jannah. Whoever visits Fatima al-Ma'suma, and imagine what her shrine is, falahu al-jannah. And you sometimes think someone does a good action, you have this reward, that reward. Then one says you have paradise. Imagine what a lofty station she has. In another narration, which is from Imam al-Jawad, alayhi salam, it says, An ibn al-Ridha. Generally, they used to call Imam al-Jawad and Imam al-Hadi ibn al-Ridha. Okay? But so when you see Ibn al-Ridha, sometimes it's Imam al-Jawad, sometimes it's Imam al-Hadi. عن ابن الرضا عليه السلام قال من زار قبر عمتي بقوم فله الجنة. It's another narration from a third. You got 3 Imams have testified whoever visits the grave of Fatima al-Ma'suma alayhi salam, Fatima bint Musa ibn Ja'far, he or she attains paradise. Okay. When it says that anyone that visits, this is the thing people don't understand. When we say about visiting or doing, whoever prays, for example, has this reward, whoever fasts. But there's a system. Like when Imam al-Ridha alayhi salam said, قَوْلُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ قال Allah Azza wa Jal, the golden chain narration, where he says, An Abi, I'm narrating from my father, he says, Musa ibn Ja'far, from his father, Ja'far ibn Muhammad, from his father, Muhammad ibn Ali, from his father, Ali ibn al-Hussein, from his father, al-Hussein ibn Ali, from his father, Ali ibn Abi Talib, an Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, عن جبرائيل عن الله عز وجل. They call this the golden chain narration. كلمة لا إله إلا الله حصني. That saying La ilaha illallah is what? The fort of God. Imagine something that's a fortress, a fort fortified by Allah. He says, Man qalaha dakhala hasni. Whoever says La ilaha illallah is under the protection of God. وَمَنْ دَخِلَ حُسْنِي أَمِنَ مِنْ عَذَابِ. Whoever enters my fortress, these fortified walls, Allah says they are safe from my punishment. And then Imam al-Rida adds one part. As he begins to leave, he says, وَلَكِنْ بِشَرْطِهَا. In another narration, it says بِشَرْطِهَا وَشُرُوطِهَا. But another one says وَلَكِنْ بِشُرُوطِهَا. One says وَبِشَرْطِهَا وَشُرُوطِهَا. But the one that's more accepted is وَبِشُرُوطِهَا. بِشُرُوطِهَا وَأَنَا مِنْ شُرُوطِهَا. There are conditions, and he says, I am of these conditions. So that means in his investigation, when I pray, well, there's many ways for me to find out if my prayers are accepted. إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ تَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنْكَرِ. Prayers most certainly prevent from what? From immorality, from transgression. If I'm praying and then I'm clubbing, what am I doing? I might as well take a Pilates class. What am I doing? What am I doing when I get up to pray? What's the point that I'm doing? When I fast in Shahr Ramadan, and then I fast the whole day, and then the night I'm doing ghiba of everyone, going out the night, there's no glare from the month coming off me. Nothing has come from the month. The same is here. When I visit their graves, Ya Sa'd, Imam al-Rida says to him, عندكم لنا قابر. He says to Sa'd, as I mentioned, Imam al-Rida, that was from Qom. He says, عندكم لنا قابر. Where you are, you have a grave for us. قلت جعلت فداك قبر فاطمة بنت موسى. May I be at your ransom. Are you talking about the grave of Fatima, the daughter of Musa? قال نعم من زارها عارفا بحقها فله الجنة. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. He said, the grave of Fatima bint Musa. Whoever visits her, then he adds the condition, عارفا بحقها. Some people, they enter the shrine as if they're entering what? An antique shop, a museum, as if they're going to Old City Town, if anyone's old enough to remember what I'm talking about. They're just going to stuff and they're just sitting there, right, let's see all these antiquities, let's see what we can find. Some people are going in there for a photo shoot. I'm not saying you can't take photos. Don't change what I'm saying. You can take a photo. But some people, that's what they're doing. The whole time they're walking around, they're just like this. The whole time, they're just taking photos. That's all. They're filming the whole experience. They're not experiencing it. I go in there, I do my ziyarah, and I pray 2 rak'ah. Just even for a small moment, just have that moment. Most of the day, I'm doing nothing worthwhile anyway. Just let me take that moment where I visit her properly. And this is what it means to visit her in this manner. But if I look at her station now, her status, because a lot of the things when it comes to her status, there's something that we read in her ziyarah. And in the ziyarah, it's very beautiful because there's a link to Imam Sahib al-Amr, to Imam Mehdi inside the actual ziyarah, you know that. But that needs a whole discussion on its own. When we're talking about arifan bihaqqiha, ma'rifah is so important, to know what you're doing. To have an idea, because you need to understand. Sometimes someone says to me, why do you cry over Imam Hussein? Why do you do latam over Imam Hussein? Why are you people go crazy over Imam Hussein? What is this love for Imam Hussein? How I can keep giving them answers, they're not going to understand. I told them you have to know Imam Hussein. When you know Imam Hussein, you won't be normal after you know him. You tell me when Muharram comes around, the whole world changes. The whole world changes. Everyone's dressed in black. Everyone attends the majlis. The people that you don't see the entire year, they come to Majlis Abu Abdullah. What is it about Imam Hussein? What is it about Imam Hussein? You need to have this ma'rifah to understand. So when I visit Hadrat al-Ma'asuma alayhi salam, I need to know who she is, what station does she hold. These ruwayat, that's what they're telling you. Where he says in it, وَأَنْ لَا يَسْلُبَنَا مَعْرِفَتَكُمْ. Oh Allah, do not take this ma'rifah. You know, sometimes some people, they go visit, and then years later you'll see them, and you told them, you go into the shrine, he says, nah, I don't do that anymore. What's the point? What do you do there? Why are you visiting a grave for? And then you get all these sushis, they'll tell you, oh, this is shirk. They've been touched by the devil. Because the devil was the one that, you know, whenever anyone asks, I always say this to people, the biggest Wahhabi was Iblis. Because he refused to prostrate to Adam, because he said to God, this is shirk, I only do sujood to you. So, you know, so he's the first one to object to this. To object, and the Sufis have this same idea. Sufis are the Shia that follow this same ideology. They have this ideology, oh, you go to the grave, this is shirk, ask only Allah, only turn to Allah. You know? Well, I say, he should have told God that when he told the angels to prostrate to Adam. Why didn't you just listen to Iblis? Prostrate only to Allah, prostrate only to Allah. Allah chooses how you worship Him, not you choose how you worship Allah. Ya Fatima, in the ziyarah we say, this is a ziyarah from Ahlul Bayt alayhum as-salam. This isn't, you know, sometimes you go to a shrine of one of the Imam Zadis. You go to a shrine of an Imam Zada, and the ziyarah is written by one of the ulama. So just for you to read. This is written, this has been narrated from Ahlul Bayt alayhum as-salam. They say, Ya Fatima shfa'ili fil Jannah. Oh, Fatima. You go there and you stand outside. So it's honestly, every shrine has something beautiful about it. You know, what I really love about the shrine of Fatima, I really enjoy, is when I enter, there's a lot of ulama there. I feel that vibe. You know, there's that, you know, like sometimes, you know, with Imam Hussein alayhi salam shrine, sometimes gets rowdy with all the people. With Imam Fatima al-Ma'asumi shrine, it's all this calmness about entering. You know, it's this calmness, this quiet. You feel that tranquility when you're in there. And then he says in the ziyarah, Allahumma inni as'aluka an takhtim li bis-sa'ada. Because it's how I finished in this world. Oh Allah, make my end to be a happy end. When I leave, takhtim li bis-sa'ada. فَلَا تَسْلُبْ مِنِّي مَا أَنَا فِيهِ. Do not take from me what I am. Now I'm here visiting this shrine. Do not take that from me. Don't make me of these people that never return to these places. Because they say, oh, this is pointless. What's the point of doing all this? Finally, we are asking Allah Azza wa Jal for paradise, aren't we? Ya Fatima shfa'ili fil Jannah. The ultimate thing is paradise. When we think about paradise, everyone has their own ideas of paradise. Everyone has their own thoughts. But the thing is, there's limitations to mankind on what we think. We have the only understanding is to accept to what our imagination leads us to. You know, we could think paradise is the way we've perceived, like, you know, when you're looking at those photoshopped images of some places around the world. You know, when you see those beautiful beaches and that, when you get there, it's not the same. You know, all the imagery you see, and then you discover there's too many, like, you know, when you first time you saw the Great Barrier Reef, yeah, this is beautiful. No one told me about the stonefish. No one told me about the box jellyfish. And the other thing, you know what's really scary about the Great Barrier Reef no one knows about? Think about this. You know saltwater crocodiles, they're salt water. Sometimes they swim around and they end up in the Great Barrier Reef. They end up in those beaches. So you're in Cairns thinking this is in Kakadu. You know, but nobody told this saltwater croc that it's not Kakadu. You know, this is the thing. So you see all these imagery, beautiful. It's not like that in paradise. You know, when they used to say that someone went into the house of J.R.R. Tolkien, the author of The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, they used to say he used to live in Middle Earth. His house was all this, fantasy. Just a bit like probably J.K. Rowling when she wrote Harry Potter. She had some fantasy idea of where she's living. She probably tried to go to 9 3/4 platform when she went to the London Underground. She probably tried to walk through that wall several times. They wanted to live this fantasy world. But this is beyond what you can understand. It's beyond what we are told in the Qur'an is figurative for us to understand. It's beyond what we can even establish in our heads. It's not compatible with what we have. It's a different reality. Because even in our fantasies, whatever we have, it gets to a point where it's limited. It's only so much. So let's have a look about what paradise is. Because there's something you need to understand. And this is very important when it comes to paradise. What is the alternative to paradise? Is what you need to understand. See, if I don't get a beachfront mansion with a Ferrari and a super yacht, I can still get some shanty and walk on my legs and everything still. I'm still going to live. I can still go for a walk down the beach and have a look. I can still have this. If I don't get a roast dinner, I can still get breadcrumbs that I can dip in the water. I can still eat something. I can still have some broth or gruel or something like that. Okay, the reason you don't know what gruel is because, alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, you don't live in Dickensian times. If you want to know what gruel is, go look at the people that used to live over 100 years ago. All right. And if I don't get a spouse, I can still get something momentary, some relationship here and there in the dunya. The problem with not getting paradise is the problem. If I don't get paradise, what's the alternative? It's not a Jannah. It's the fire of hell. It's the worst abode that you could even think about. It's not like God says, all right, the people that didn't make it into heaven can come back to the earth. No. The earth's finished. It's this or that. Imam al-Qadhim alayhi salam says, أَمَا إِنَّ أَبْدَانَكُمْ لَيْسَ لَهَا ثَمَنٌ إِلَّا الْجَنَّةِ فَلَا تَبِعُوهَا بِغَيْرِهَا. So the only price for your body is what? Paradise. Do not sell it for other than paradise. This is your main focus. Paradise, and this is my favorite part. I love to go over this hadith. This hadith and Imam al-Baqir just tell you what paradise is like. And it makes you forget. You read this hadith and you'll forget this world. When he talks about paradise. He says, إِنَّ أَهْلَ الْجَنَّةِ يُحْيَوْنَ فَلَا يَمُوتُونَ أَبَدًا. He says the inhabitants of paradise, they live and they never die. Now, one of the first things people ask for is what? Immortality. You hear that someone can live forever, never die. Because this is what depresses a lot of people. A lot of people, this is what depresses them. That they think, I'm going to die one day. They have to live with that. I can die at one point. Paradise, you never have that thought. Why? Because you're there forever. That's why he says, نَسْأَلُ اللَّهَ الْجَنَّةَ بِرَحْمَتِهِ إِنَّهُ عَلَىٰ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. Notice he says, he ask Allah for paradise. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal for paradise with his mercy, because he's able to do all things. So firstly, Jannah has eternal life. Then he says, وَيَسْتَغْنُونَ فَلَا يَفْتَقِرُونَ أَبَدًا. يَسْتَغْنُون means they will have eternal prosperity. They will be needless. They will never feel poverty. You know when you have that bill coming up and you can't pay it? You have that moment where you go, oh, I've got to not buy this. I've got to, manage to save from here and there just to get, I've got to borrow some money, I've got to do that. With everyone, unless you know you're someone that can buy a house outright. But everyone has some kind of a debt. Over there, you're not scraping for anything. You're eternally needless. And then he says, وَيَفْرَحُونَ فَلَا يَحْزَنُونَ أَبَدًا. يَفْرَحُونَ وَلَا يَحْزَنُونَ أَبَدًا. Everything is happiness. It's eternal happiness. And they're never grieving. And the other two mention the same thing. وَيَضْحَقُونَ فَلَا يَبْكُونَ أَبَدًا. That they laugh and they never cry. The people of paradise. Allahumma ja'alna min ahli jannah. وَيُقْرَمُونَ فَلَا يُهَانُونَ أَبَدًا. Look at this. So one it says وَيَضْحَقُونَ. One يَفْرَحُونَ. They're happy and they're never what? Grieved. One says they're laughing and they're never crying. And one says that they're yukramun, that they are being treated with what? Respect, nobility. لا يسمعون فيها لاغية. لا يسمعون فيها لغوا ولا what? كذابة. You never ever hear anything that irritates you. ولا فلا يهانون أبدا. So they're never humiliated or degraded or abased. No more sadness, no more weeping, no more grief, no more sorrow, just eternal happiness. So you won't see no more Fox News, no more Zionist propaganda, no more Piers Morgan asking you to condemn Hamas or whatever he comes up with tomorrow. Just remember, he's going to turn to the other side soon. He's going to be supporting the resistance once they has to, because it's shifting. So eventually it'll all change and you'll sit and laugh. You go, subhanallah. You know, these people are, I don't want to use the word on the mumbar, but they're people that do stuff for money. Whoever's paying them, that's what they do it for. You won't be seeing any more Wahhabis, no more sushis, no more Andrew Bolt, no more disgrace, no more humiliation, none of this anymore. You won't see it anymore. No one will be sending you any WhatsApp showing you mass graves. No more. It's all over. All these kids you see in the mass graves, they'll be frolicking and enjoying themselves in paradise with you. This is what it's going to be about. This is ultimately what's about. The dunya, that's what it's about. You're here for this trial and nothing else. And then he says, in other things, he says at the very end, because I'm going to wrap it up with this, because it's a long hadith. He says, وَيَرْكَبُونَ وَيَتَزَاوَرُونَ أَبَدًا. That you're eternally socializing. And that's one of the biggest problems we had in these years, is socializing died. You know why? Because everyone's working. People socialized many years ago. And then COVID came, it doubled down. I want to ask you all, how often, in your heads, no one answers, how often do you do ziyarat, where you visit other people? In your head, just put it, how many times? And then remember when you were a kid, how many times you do ziyarat. In paradise, على الأرائك. You know what ara'iki means? على الأرائك ينظرون. You know what ara'iki is? You know those lounges? And I'm not talking something out of Nick Scali or something. I'm talking about proper lounges. You know? على سرر موضونة متكئين عليها متقابلين. You know what sururin? Sururin and ara'ik are like thrones. Like you're going to be sitting like a proper don. You're going to be a king sitting up there. You're sitting with people and you're hanging out with people you like. Okay? And you're looking at each other. يَطُوفُ عَلَيْهِمْ وِلْدَانٌ مُخَلَّدُونَ. So all these young youths are coming around bringing you بِأَكْوَابٍ وَأَبَارِيقَ وَكَأْسٍ مِّن مَّعِينٍ. They bring you everything for you to enjoy. You're enjoying paradise. It's something like no other thing that you could even experience. And this is linked by who? When you visit, مَنْ زَارَهَا وَجَبَتْ لَهُ الْجَنَّةِ. Allah Azza wa Jal, Gharib. You know when people think, oh, your God's a crazy God, he's always angry. I go, never have I seen something easier than entering paradise. Never. You go through the narrations. Imam Ali ibn al-Hussein alayhi salam, when the Kadhab Hassan al-Basri gets up and says, عجبت لمن نجا كيف نجا وما عجبت لمن هلك كيف هلك. He said, I'm surprised, I'm amazed at whoever enters paradise. Naja means saved. How did they do? I'll be amazed if anyone enters paradise. He said, not on the ones that go to hell. Because pretty much we're all going, you know, those people tell you, we're all going to hell anyway. No, we're not. You are. Don't take me with you. You know, you can choose that for yourself. This is what you told them. What do you mean we're all going to hell? No, you're going to hell. I'm not going to hell. You know, because Imam Ali ibn al-Hussein says, عجبت لمن هلك كيف هلك. He says, I'm amazed that whoever enters hell, how did they enter hell? It's al-ajab كل العجب لمن, sorry, it's not عجبت, al-ajab كل العجب لمن نجا كيف نجا. And he says, al-ajab كل العجب لمن هلك كيف هلك. وليس العجب كل العجب لمن نجا كيف نجا. The Imam says, I'm not amazed if anyone enters heaven. This will be normal. In other words, the default is entering heaven. And I'll give you a ta'kid from it in the Qur'an. When you read Surah Al-Mu'minun, he says, الَّذِينَ يَرِثُونَ الْفِرْدَوْسِ. The people that enter paradise, they inherit paradise. Do you know who they inherit from? Everyone has a house in paradise. The ones that make it to paradise end up also getting the other people's share that missed out. So everyone has a house in paradise, and they decide, hold on, I don't like this, you know. Just too worried about you condemning Hamas, and God knows wherever they're going to end up going. And they just want to go in another direction. And then, more for me. You know what I mean? You know, like when you get someone a sweet, and he says, oh, no, listen, I'm on a sugar-free diet, so that's all right. More cheesecake for me. Good luck to you. This is what paradise is going to be like. More cheesecake for you. More everything for you. This is what paradise is going to be like. Hani'an lakum. You are so lucky that you have attended the birth of Fatima bint Musa ibn Ja'far. Hani'an lakum. May Allah have mercy on your parents for bringing you into this direction. And have mercy upon you for staying firm on this. May Allah not take us from this path and from this ma'rifah. We ask Allah not to take us from this world until He is pleased with us. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. والأرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات والأرواح موتانا جميعا ولقضاء الحوائج وقبول الأعمال وشفاء المرضى وغفران الذنوب وتعجيل الفرج وحسن العاقبة. رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلوات.